Hi everyone, welcome back to our little chateau. Sorry I haven't done a vlog for so long, but we've been really busy with our truffle tree company, French Truffle Tree. With all the rain and sun we've had, everything's been growing really well, which is good for the trees, but the downside is we also have to cut the grass in the fields they're in. So, as I probably said before, we're hoping to move back into the main house, as we've been living in the adjoining house, which we call the lake house. But as usual, we got busy and the decorating's been put back. So today, I thought I'd show you some of the rooms in the main house. So this is the kitchen in our little chateau. Here are some before pictures of the kitchen. I love the old fireplace, but unfortunately most of the heat goes up the chimney. So we're waiting for a canopy to be made and a flue put in, so we don't lose all that heat. We were told that there was always a large cooking pot boiling on the fire, and people were allowed to come and eat and sleep in the adjoining barn, which is now our lakeside house, in return for a day's labour. But they had to leave their matches and cigarettes or tobacco on the table in the kitchen. We have decorated and we've just got to seal the old slate floor, and then we can start putting some furniture back in. We're also having a solid fuel Rayburn installed to give us hot water and run some radiators. We've opted for a solid fuel one, as we have a large vat of wood for managing our land, and this is where it's going to be situated. I've just got to decide on what colour I want. It's nice to have a large kitchen, but there are quite a few doors and staircases, so it makes it difficult for cupboards and furniture. But we love it as a large open space, and would often have orphan lambs running around. One time, we had our first white female Highland calf, and she was poorly, and we brought her in here to keep her warm, and so we could feed her through the night. Anyway, we called the vet and I went to the gate to meet him. When he arrived, he asked me where the calf was, and I said she's in the kitchen. He looked at me and asked again where the calf was, and I again replied, in the kitchen. To which he said, no, madame, not your husband, the calf. So I replied, the calf is in the kitchen with my husband. I think he thought, mad Englishwoman doesn't understand French. So he was quite surprised when he found we'd built her a pen in the kitchen. When we started decorating the kitchen, we put in new lighting, and I searched for ages for a light fitting that I liked. I knew what I wanted, but couldn't find anything that I actually liked. So Kev came up with the great idea of using this old clock that had actually stopped working. I really love it. It uses up the clock that I liked and didn't want to throw out, and I think it looks really good. The stairs just here lead down to the vaulted cellar, but I'll show you that in another vlog. This door leads to the dining room. Another thing I like about the Chateau is all the different types of doors in the house. This room has a lot of paneling and is said to be from the 16th century, but I'm no expert. It was all painted dark brown, as seems to be popular in old French houses. We wanted to strip it back to the original wood, so we got a sandblaster, but some of it was too fragile and falling apart. Also, we noticed that it had been repaired with different woods, so it was going to have to stay painted. We found the bottom coat was this colour grey, so we decided to go with that. Unfortunately, we did lose some of the panelling around the windows as the damp had got to it. We did try to replace it with new replica panelling, but it just didn't look right. It didn't have the same quality or character, so that went on. The old oak floor that was in here, we found was rotten. Whilst I was out, Kev decided to pull some of it up to take a look. And when I came back, he said, "Do you want the good news or the bad news?" The bad news was the oak floor was rotten and we had to take it all up. The good news was underneath was this floor. It's called the Cœur de Mazel, the heart of the spinster, which is meant to be made of stone. It's quite rare to find one heart, and it means the family that owned the house were quite wealthy. This floor actually has 3 hearts. Only problem is, you do get some damp sometimes with it, but I haven't got the heart to rip it out. I love the panelling, and when Kev was painting the panelling, he looked through the gap and said he thought he could see a stone fireplace behind the panelling. And if I wanted, he would take the panelling off to see. But he said he might not be able to put it back as it was once it was off. So I told him to leave it. I like the panelling. Luckily, I was at home, so he couldn't just pull it off to take a look. So, from our dining room, we go through this door, through an entrance hall and into the salon, although we frequently change the salon and the dining room around. When we bought the property, this had been changed into 4 rooms and had been used more recently as a knitting and sewing business, and it was full of sewing machines and knitting wool. Previously to this, 3 generations of a family had lived in these 4 rooms and had farmed a small piece of the land, and in return gave a percentage of the crops to the property owner. It was the same upstairs with 3 generations. But this time there was 9 grandchildren sleeping all head to toe in one bed. We know this because one of my husband's friend's wives was one of those grandchildren. When she came to visit, all she wanted to see was 4 small rooms, and cried her eyes out, especially as it still had the same wallpaper that she remembered as a child. She told us how they weren't allowed to look into the main bit of the house because the master or property owner wouldn't allow it. Obviously, very hard times. This is how the salon looked before we took the walls down. All the inside walls, we realised that the lovely ornate plaster on the ceiling and the walls were made out of horsehair and was pretty good condition. But yet again, I went out and my husband Kev was unhappy with a crack in the plaster, so he started chipping away at it. When I got back, all the beautiful plaster was on the floor. But Kev explained that at some time water had leaked onto the main beam and woodworm had got in and the beam had dropped and cracked. So a repair had been done with a new green oak beam, but not a very good repair. As it dried, it had shrunk and twisted and it wasn't actually supporting anything. And the old oak floor above was the only thing holding it up. So it's quite lucky that we found this out early on, as the French builder was still here. So we decided to save the old beam, which some historians had dated as the 15th century, by building these 2 stone columns and putting a new oak beam underneath to support the old beam. Easier said than done. We had a forklift in the room and some large jacks to lift the old beam back into place, and a mini digger outside to pass the new beam through our newly installed windows, along with 8 of us helping. But after a few hair-raising hours, it was all in place. This is the oldest part of the house and is said to have its own cellar, but we've never been able to find it. The fireplace we bought from a man who was supposed to be related to the Rochefoucauld family and was selling an old stone fireplace from the Chateau de Rochefoucauld. So we visited his old wilt mill and brought a large stone fireplace. It was only once the stonemasons tried to fit it that we realised it was not one large fireplace, but 2 small ones. But by that time, the old damaged one had been removed and the large chimney was only being supported precariously by some acrows, so we had to do something quickly. Luckily, the stonemasons managed to make a fireplace out of the 2. Not what we wanted, but we needed to do something quickly. Truffle season is getting close, so obviously a busy time for us. But I will try to get more vlogs done and get moved into the main house. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe.
You